Now, when it comes to stress management, I find it's a common thread that runs through managing change and dealing with complaining customers and handling difficult people and applying emotional intelligence for career success. So, I'm going to share with you a couple of techniques for each one of those different areas of how we perform our tasks and duties in our organizations. So, when it comes to change, it's a two-step approach. There's a change and there's a transition. Change is physical, change is situational, change is external. It can happen overnight. It's a new policy, a new procedure. It could be a pandemic. It could be a new team member, a new office, some sort of change in the organization. But when it comes to transition, that's more personal. That's more internal. It's more psychological. It's our fear, it's our frustration, it's our worry, it's our concern. And what I like to share are techniques for us to become quick change artists. And if we know the stages of transition, it makes it a little bit less stressful for ourselves and everyone else. Now, the first stage of transition starts with an ending. Problem is, we don't like endings. It was really nice 16 months ago that I came to work. I was completely competent, and then with the pandemic, a lot of that had to be modified. Not quite as confident, not quite as competent. And so it kind of takes our breath away a little bit. Then we need to manage the neutral zone, which is the second stage. It's kind of like nighttime between yesterday and tomorrow. Can't go back to the way things used to be, not quite sure how they're going to be. And it creates a lot of stress. Anxiety rises about 50%, motivation drops about 50%, absenteeism goes up 3 times the normal rate during that transition through the neutral zone. And then the third stage, of course, is launching a new beginning, whether they're small decisions or big decisions, just all in, as they say in poker. And when it comes to launching a new beginning, it reminds us of all those great ideas we had in the past that didn't pan out. So we really have to make sure we're focusing on what's going on today rather than those ghosts of the past that were some failures. And throughout this 3 stages, we also need to take care of ourselves. And the way we take care of ourselves, just keep showing up because, most people can't gut it out anymore. So you keep showing up, you tell the truth, whatever you know for sure, be present, be empathetic, be sympathetic, and then let go and say, I'll see you tomorrow. And then you show up and you're empathetic and you tell the truth and you say, I'll see you tomorrow. And just making sure that we keep those ideas in mind. Now, it seems pretty simple. Change starts with an ending, and then we go into the neutral zone, and then we launch new beginnings and take care of ourselves. What could possibly go wrong? Well, there's some mistakes we make in dealing with change that create stress. One of those is joining the anti-change crowd, deciding not to change. But I learned a long time ago growing up on the farm, it's a lot easier to ride the horse in the direction it's headed. I don't know if you've ever been on a horse that wants to go back to the barn. It's going back to the barn. It's an 800-pound animal. All you have is a bit and bridle. The more you slap it on the ears and cuss and swear, more likely that horse is going to scrape you off on a tree or the barn door on the way in. And so when our industry is changing, our organization is changing, sometimes we just need to ride the horse in the direction it's headed. Some people act like a victim. They throw a pity party and invite other people to attend, and they talk about how hopeless it is and how helpless they feel. It doesn't make them very attractive as a coworker or as a leader. Some people make a big deal out of little things. I had a business mentor in the 80s that used to call this pole vaulting over mouse turds. He always said, you make sure you stake your career on the big issues, not the petty stuff. And so sometimes people make that mistake and it causes tremendous amount of stress. Sometimes people psychologically disengage from their work, their self-talk. They're saying, I have to, or I must, or I should do this. Not very motivating. But if we say, I get to, I want to, I look forward to, changes our attitude, changes our actions. And then, failing to manage the stress, sometimes it just comes down to not being able to tell what's controllable or uncontrollable. So what I always suggest is if you get to work next week and there's some things bugging you, I'd like you to write down a list. What's bugging me? So you write down everything you can think of that's bugging you. So you write down that person bugs me. I don't like that situation. Now that I think about it, I don't like that person either. And you know what? I don't like these circumstances. So you write down everything that's bugging you. And what I want you to do is sit back and take a look at that list and decide on that list what's controllable. Do you have some impact, some influence? Can you do something about it? Well, get it on a list of things to do today and get it done. Now, if there's anything else left on that list, you've just declared those uncontrollable. That's just the way it is. That's life. Those are the cards you're dealt. That's how they played out. Life's tough for everybody. Get over it. How'd you like to work with me every day? But sometimes we just need that clearinghouse question. Is this controllable or not? And stress management has quite an impact on providing world-class customer service. And I always like to have an acronym in mind so I'm prepared if there's an angry customer. And that acronym is LEAD, L-E-A-D. L stands for listen, undivided attention. Make sure we're asking what or how questions to truly understand the situation, and then restate and paraphrase what that person is thinking or feeling. Then the E of LEAD stands for empathy. Empathize. I can understand how frustrating this would be. I can understand the concern that you have. I can understand how angry that would be. And then people need to feel normal, and then they'll listen to logic. So when we blend with the emotion and people say, I am angry, I am concerned, then they feel normal, then they'll listen to logic. And that's the A, which is action. And what are you going to do? You're going to expedite the order? Are you going to send an email right away? Are you going to discount the price in some way? And then the D of LEAD stands for demonstrate, follow up, or follow through. Maybe it's a short phone call or an email or text message, so they know that you didn't forget. And sometimes, difficult people will be in our lives. There's a little book on my shelves over here called Nasty People that claims 20 to 21% of the population is considered difficult. So pretty much wherever you go, there's going to be one. But the reason people become difficult are these four reasons. They want to get something done and it's not getting done, so they become more controlling, more demanding. Or they want to get something done right and it's been done wrong, so now they become perfectionistic, pointing out potential flaws or potential errors. Or maybe they wanted to get along with you, but they felt left out. Now they're going to exaggerate their behavior with all sorts of relational maintenance behaviors to try to win your approval. Or it could have been somebody that wanted to get appreciation and they didn't get any, so they're going to get some attention around here. So one of the things that I do to be prepared for dealing with difficult people is I will write on the corner of my paper, I am a reasonable person, because they'll try to make me believe I'm not being reasonable. So I just need to remind myself I'm a reasonable person, and it really helps me not to get caught up in their arguments. So there's a couple of things I'd like to share with you that I call neutral phrases. So whether you're on the phone or face to face, I like to say things like this. That's an idea. Now that's interesting, isn't it? You would never say something like that. You've got a point. I'll need some time to think about that. I see, I understand, go on. Everyone else wishes they'd shut up. You say go on, it relieves the pressure, relieves the stress. There's no longer a verbal fistfight. And if we manage our stress, we'll be able to apply emotional intelligence for our career success. And there's two elements that I think about with emotional intelligence that relate to stress: self-awareness, what makes us angry, frustrated, or negative, and then self-regulation, which I paraphrase as the ability to bite your tongue. So the way we do this is to just slow things down in our mind and kind of look at it like a funnel. All information simply comes through our senses. It's raw data, no meaning's been applied to it. It's what people say, it's what people do. The second step is the interpretation, which is the intellectual question. Why? Why would a person say this? Why would a person do this? Now, based upon that interpretation, it creates a feeling. And once we're in that emotional state, it limits our options and what we would say or what we would do when we feel like that. But as a professional, we still need to express our best option. We think at about 800 to 1200 words per minute. It only takes a few seconds for that old idea of collect our thoughts and bite our tongue to provide the most professional response. So if we have some physical remedies, we have some psychological strategies, we have some acronyms that are top of mind, it really helps us to manage the stress so we can help people get through change. We can enhance our customer service. We can deal with difficult people without becoming one. And we can also apply emotional intelligence for our career success, but for our team and our organization overall. What is stress? Well, what I found over the years is stress is simply wear and tear caused by life. According to the research by Dr. Leonard Hayflick, the human body does have the biological potential to live to about 135 years. But we don't find very many people living into their 110s, 120s, or 130s. And one of the main reasons is because of the stress, the wear and tear, the erosion or corrosion caused by life. So we start out with a biological potential of about 135 years. My oldest brother, Cabot, had the whooping cough. My parents claim they nearly lost him. So he starts out with a biological potential of 135 years. He gets the whooping cough, he's down to 130 years. Maybe through adolescence, our self-esteem was low, stress was high. Now we're down from 130 years down to 125. Or maybe in our late teens or early 20s, we got involved in some racy relationships. Now we're down from 125 down to 120. Or maybe we bought a small manufacturing company when we were 21. Now we're down to 57 or so. So it's some of the choices we make in life, but it's also the events that happen in our life that create this wear and tear. And it attacks us in two fronts. It's a physical state, we are exhausted, a psychological state because we tend to worry. And the problem with worry is the mind has a hard time telling the difference between what is real or what is well imagined. So when we worry about whether or not we set enough money aside to retire comfortably, even though we're not retiring right now, kicks us into a stress response. When we worry about whether or not we set enough money aside to get the kids through college, even though they're still in grade school, kicks us into a stress response. The mind has a hard time telling the difference between what is real or what is well imagined, but it creates the stress, and stress is dangerous, can lead to depression and death. So there's three stages of stress we need to recognize. The first stage is the alarm stage. And you probably woke up to an alarm this morning, whether it was your phone or a radio in the corner, and we go into the fight or flight, the response stage. And either you hit the shower or you hit the snooze button. And no matter how well or how poorly our day goes, we're going to be exhausted. Now, that's a quick trip through the stress response, but if we do that routinely, it can lead to burnout. And I'll tell you what, burnout isn't pretty. If you truly do become burned out, according to the research by Dr. K.W. Center, it can take 2 to 4 years to recover from burnout. And I've never had anyone ever come up to me and say, Kit, the years I was burned out, best years of my life. No, they're the longest days of our life. So I don't want you to become burned out. And there's 3 stages of burnout we should recognize. The first stage is physical fatigue. You're exhausted. And I think the best way to tell you've hit this stage of burnout is if you have a favorite TV program you like to watch at 7 o'clock at night, you sit down, start watching the TV show. Next thing you realize, you wake up, it's 1:30 in the morning with an infomercial on selling exercise equipment, and you find the remote control, shut off the TV, head down the hallway, get a few more hours of sleep. You're exhausted. Second stage of burnout is psychological fatigue, and I usually abbreviate that psycho because it's different for each and every one of us. Some people get grumpy, some people get grouchy, some people go looking for a fight, some people withdraw from relationships. My wife claims I get touchy. Can you imagine that? Me getting touchy? I don't get touchy. I go into denial. I say, I'm not touchy, you're touchy. But my wife thinks I'm being touchy. But for almost every one of us, we'll suffer from mindlessness or thoughtlessness. Walk into a room, can't remember why you walk into that room. And the second stage of burnout is spiritual fatigue. And spiritual fatigue is a sense of hopelessness, helplessness, thoughts of escape, don't feel competent on the job anymore, not winking at yourself in the mirror anymore, don't want to deal with your coworkers or customers anymore, you're sick of it. And I think the best way to tell you've hit spiritual fatigue is if you're watching one of those TV shows that's a bunch of stories about people that have run away to another part of the country for 5 or 10 years. And as you're watching that TV show, you're wondering if you could do that, if you could just run away for 5 or 10 years, just take cash. We know credit cards and checks are too easy to trace. Just take all the cash you can find. Now, it seems kind of silly we'd call this burnout. Who doesn't get tired every once in a while? I agree. Who doesn't get grumpy or grouchy every once in a while? I agree. And who doesn't lose hope every once in a while? I agree. But if you truly do become burned out, you might miss out on the best 2 to 4 years of your life, or time with your kids, or time with your parents. So I don't want you to become burned out. So there's 3 questions we need to ask ourselves and answer. How well am I avoiding unnecessary stress? Are there certain people or situations I can bypass or sidestep? And then how well am I responding to unavoidable stress, the stress that comes with our personal and professional lives? And then finally, how well are we practicing good health? Are we well fed, well rested, and well exercised? So I want to share with you 5 physical remedies and 5 psychological strategies to manage stress so you don't become burned out. I want you to get organized. I don't know if that's going to take 2 hours, 2 days, or 2 weeks, but what did our parents used to say? A place for everything and everything in its place. Awfully good advice. And I also want you to have a proper diet. I want you to work into your diet some of those, what do they call them? Fruits and vegetables in your diet. And you also need an exercise program. Now, I want to give you the 5 criteria to an exercise program that will work if you put it to work. Number 1, it has to be something that causes you to move. That's real important in an exercise program. Otherwise, it just doesn't have the effect. It has to be something that causes you to breathe deeply so you get the aerobic benefit. It has to be something that causes you to bend to put elasticity back into the muscles. It has to be something you enjoy, and it has to be at your pace. I'm not going to ask you to get up every morning and run 3 miles. I have a brother that does. I'll run if I'm real scared, but I don't run for exercise. So you have to find an exercise program that will work for you. You can do some deep breathing. Now, some people say this is deep breathing. No, that's fine. Deep breathing, according to Dr. Burt Decker, is you inhale 5 seconds, hold it 15 seconds, exhale slowly for 10. Takes 2 minutes, gives your heart an opportunity to pump the blood through the system twice. Oxygenated blood is fuel for the brain, and you've just gone from unleaded gas to jet fuel. You're quicker thinking, more articulate, more vocabulary available to you, and quicker wit just by deep breathing. It also lowers the pitch of your voice, softens the tone of your voice, and you sound warm and cooperative, even if you're not. I'd also like you to use music to your advantage, just like the previous speaker mentioned, and put together a playlist that motivates us, and sing if you have a good voice or if you drive alone. And I also want to share with you 5 psychological strategies that can reduce stress. One of those is to put together a past accomplishments reference. From when you're a little bitty snot-nosed kid till now, any award, certificate, plaque, trophy, ribbon, acts of kindness, get it on a single sheet. Now, don't carry it around, make people read it to see how cool you are, then you'll talk to them, but it's just for your eyes only. But the next time you face a challenge or an obstacle at work, you pull out a list of 25 success stories where you're the hero or heroine in every one of them. And you'll see this is just an opportunity to get something else on that list. I'd also like you to practice positive visualization. Instead of imagining things are going to go bad, imagine things are going to turn out just fine. I have a little book over here on the shelves that claim human beings are successful 19 out of 20 times. 95% of the time, things go our way. Could you imagine going to the casino, hitting the buttons, pulling down the arm on the one-armed bandit, and pay out 19 out of 20 times? That's the investment we get in ourselves. And alter your interpretations. Get in the habit of saying at least. Sitting at a stoplight, you enter the intersection, someone blows through their red light. Ooh, at least they didn't hit me. Maybe things aren't going well at work right now, but at least I still have a job. Maybe things aren't going well in my marriage right now, but at least I still have a job. It'll help a little bit. And also like you to give yourself a nickname that you like, not the nickname other people have given you. Give yourself a nickname that you like. My nickname for me is Welchy. And whenever I say Welchy, it gives me a little psychological boost to take on those difficult tasks. And then finally, I'd like you to practice positive affirmations. Pay yourself a compliment when nobody else is. Say, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me. You keep saying things like that, you'll be a US Senator someday. Temporarily. So the bottom line is this. It's kind of like our self-esteem. We spend 24 hours a day with ourselves. We could just as well enjoy it.